morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first ever New York and California NetSuite User Group Virtual Summit. My name is Michelle Cronelly, and I am the coordinator of the NorCal, SoCal, and New York NetSuite User Groups. I will be your host today, along with Craig Cook. Craig, would you like to say hello?
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you. Sorry, there's a lot of things going on right now. Yeah, thanks. Welcome, everybody.
I see a lot of familiar names on the call, and I see a lot of new names, so I just want to take this time to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. We wish we could see you in person, but due to COVID-19, we have had to take our meetings virtually, but we really are excited. As this is a new endeavor, we do hoping that you keep patience in mind. It's new, so if there's anything wrong, please let us know via chat, and we have an army of people on hand to help you with your needs. Before we begin, I also want to send warm wishes from all of our team that all of you and your family are keeping happy, safe, and healthy during these difficult times. As we have a jam-packed agenda today, so let's check it out. First up, we have a CPE eligible session, NetSuite Tips and Tricks by Hussain Zaidi, Chief Solutions Architect and Business Solution Partners. Following Hussain of Gavin Davidson from Oracle NetSuite, presenting on what's new in the NetSuite 2020.1 release. Following Gavin, we have Tim Schobel and Shasta Hague, NetSuite consultants, presenting on bank feeds and banking improvements. To end the day, we will be opening the floor for some Q&A and some networking. And now I'm going to introduce my co-host, Craig Cook, to go over some housekeeping notes.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. We have a lot of participants on today's call. And while I know it's really cool to be able to see that huge grid of people on Zoom webinars, we're asking everybody to turn off your video cameras now if you do happen to have them on. This will help to ensure smooth operations and save on some bandwidth. That simple request will facilitate a better live experience and recording. Our webinar audience is set to listen-only mode, but we'd still love to field your questions. Please take a minute to familiarize yourself with the Zoom webinar interface and especially that Q&A button. If you have a question about anything in our presentations today, please type your queries into the Q&A interface. We may address them immediately, hold them off until the scheduled Q&A, address them via the text chat, a lot of different ways that we can answer those questions, and hopefully we'll be able to get to all of them. We have an army of moderators on the call today to assist us. Most of the questions will be answered directly in the Q&A module, and a consolidated report of those questions and answers will be provided to the user group members once we've had a chance to process them. You'll also notice some polling questions popping up from time to time throughout today's presentation. Please participate in these polls to help your user group administrators continue to provide tailored, value-added programming to the community. All of today's attendees will receive a follow-up email in the coming days that delivers a recorded copy of the broadcast, a downloadable presentation deck, and any supporting materials. Please be patient as this does take some time to process. All right, that's my housekeeping notes. Michelle, why don't you give our audience some important reminders about today?
Absolutely, I would love to, Craig. As I mentioned before, please bear with. This is the first time we're bringing the user groups online. There's bound to be some growing pains, so just bear with us and let us know if there's some problems, and we'll fix it as soon as we can. As many of you I know will be very anxious to receive today's presentations with the recording and the PowerPoint slides, we will get them into your hands via email. Just please allow 1 to 2 weeks for processing, editing, and we'll have those in your hands. And as our NetSuite user groups are growing exponentially, we had over 570 registrations for today's event. We are in desperate need of volunteers. So if you are interested in helping us out with admin work or presenting a 5-minute session or a 10-minute session, we love your help. So if you're interested in helping out, just drop us a chat and we'll get you started. And as always, we do Go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to say, we got a first couple of questions, and both of them have to do with LinkedIn chat. I'm sorry, the LinkedIn groups as the forum. So if you want to participate with your fellow user group members, the links are directly up on the screen here, and we will also make sure that we copy them into the chat.
And I think that brings us to our important announcement regarding our competition today, Craig.
I think so. So we are running the LinkedIn challenge for today, and it is really, really easy to participate. Number one, if you're not a member of your local NetSuite user group on LinkedIn, please sign up and register today. We have a moderator who will let you in, and then you can take advantage of the community of like-minded NetSuite users who are in your neighborhood. So we have one for NorCal, we have one for SoCal, and we have one for the New York metro region. Once you're registered, please post a comment in the LinkedIn group about one of today's presentations. Any comment will do. I loved it. I hated it. Hopefully not. We had a great time at the user group. Anything that you comment in the user group forum will be considered your entry. We'll gather up all the entries from SoCal, NorCal, and New York, and one lucky winner will be randomly chosen on Friday, May 15th to receive a $50 Uber Eats gift card. All right, Michelle, that's our LinkedIn challenge for today. I'm going to end the opening poll. I saw a couple people might have had some issues taking the poll. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a couple of questions, and then you can hit the submit button. I'm just going to point that out. But right now, we're going to end the poll because we got some more polling questions coming up in the near future.
And I give a special shout out to Emily for reaching out and volunteering. I love when we get volunteers. So thank you. I will be contacting you later on today. And anyone else who's interested, don't hesitate to drop a chat. And along with our volunteers and our staff, I also want to huge shout out to our sponsors. We would not be able to host these full events, both virtual and in person, without them. So I want to give a big round of applause virtually to Business Solution Partners, Avalara, FloQast, and Tipalti. So thank you, everyone. And we look forward to hearing from you in a little bit. So without further ado, I would like to bring on Tom Bemiller from Avalara.
Thanks, Michelle. It's great to be here. I appreciate you folks putting all these meetings together.
All right, sounds great, Tom.
All right, excellent. Thanks, and good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. It's great to be back here again with everyone. You know, naturally, I'd rather we could meet in person like we normally do, but I guess we are where we are. Now, for those that I haven't yet met, Avalara offers three major services. Avatax Calc is a cloud-based sales and use tax engine that integrates with your ERP and your e-commerce platforms. CertCapture collects, manages, and stores your exemption certificates, and Returns manages the preparation and filing of your returns. So we were founded in 2004 to address sales tax issues. We now serve more than 30,000 customers through more than 700 pre-built integrations. You see a lot of stats on this slide, but a question that always comes up at these meetings is about our peak time performance. So I looked at the busiest time of our year, Cyber Week, this past 2019. Cyber Week is always kind of our Super Bowl. And I pulled some stats together from Friday through Monday. In that time, we processed 498 million tax engine calls. That was more than double the number year over year. And 137 million of them came in just on Cyber Monday. That was 298% greater than our average daily tax transactions through the whole year. We expect those numbers to double this year, so we're building capacity to stay ahead of the curve. We built a lot of extra headroom in the system, which, given where we are today, that was fortunate because just this year so far, we've seen a 40% increase in usage, mostly in e-commerce. So it's important that tax can handle the additional demand. We currently have the capacity right now to deliver 4 times the number of transactions per second than we normally handle on average. All right, Michelle, if you could go to the next slide, I'd appreciate it, because we're also heavily invested in customer support, providing multiple avenues of help from regular support to tax advisory services. And we provide professional services to address unique needs like nexus studies or voluntary compliance initiatives, back filings, those kinds of things. If we can't help, we've built a network of expert accounting partners who can provide the additional services necessary. We know manual sales tax management is time-consuming, it's expensive, and it's a compulsory activity that doesn't put 10 cents on your bottom line or drive any growth. It's inevitable that tax compliance will be fully automated so you can focus on more strategic issues to grow your business. And doing it in-house makes about as much sense really as doing payroll in-house. Avatax is a simple, elegant, and easy-to-use service. And since day one, we've worked to make it the fastest, easiest, most accurate, affordable, and reliable way to do transactional taxes so you don't have to spend time on compulsory, non-profitable tasks. The next step is a simple conversation with your consultant from Business Solution Partners to discuss your compliance scenarios. They're well qualified. I urge you to reach out to them. So thank you for the time, everyone. Enjoy the day. I hope you learn a lot, and I'm looking forward to hearing all the speakers. Thanks, Michelle.
Oh, thanks so much, Tom. All right, I think we're ready to dive into our first session of the day. First up, we've got our ever popular tips and tricks session with Hussain Zaidi. Before I introduce Hussain, we're just going to go over a couple of things here with this great animation. Thank you so much. This session is CPE eligible. A quick shout out to all of our accountants on the call today. Business Solution Partners is extremely proud to have expanded our capabilities to offer CPE credits and has been approved by the NASBA for group web-based training. As a sponsor of the NetSuite user groups, we're happy to provide this value-added opportunity to members of the NorCal, SoCal, and New York NetSuite user groups. To comply with the NASBA's rules for credit delivery, we will have several polling questions interdispersed throughout this first presentation. If you're a CPA, please be sure to vote in these polls and watch attentively for the entire presentation to be eligible to receive your course certificate. And please note, CPE credits are only offered during live broadcasts. You cannot earn CPE credits by viewing the recording of this webinar, though we do encourage you to do so. All right, I am going to launch the first poll for the CPE session. And you don't necessarily have to be a CPA to take this poll. So if you want to take it, please go ahead. So let me ask all our NetSuite users, are we ready for the first session of the day? And crickets, because everybody's on silent, but that's okay. We are going to press forward. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce your first speaker, Business Solution Partners Chief Solutions Architect, Hussain Zaidi. Hussain advises our clients on technology, solution design, and process optimization. He has been working with ERP systems for over 20 years and has amassed a wealth of knowledge that goes well beyond a single platform. You may recognize Hussain from your local NetSuite user group. He's always given talks where he's a regular presenter on topics like finance transformation, and of course, his tips and tricks sessions, which are always well received. All right, Hussain, I think our audience is ready to learn some new NetSuite skills, and I'm going to hand control over to you. Take it away.
Wonderful. So hi, everyone. This is Hussain Zaidi. I'm the Chief Solution Architect here at Business Solution Partners. Thank you, Craig, for the intro. So I'm going to dive right in to the tips and tricks. I see in the poll a lot of you guys are returning attendees from previous NetSuite user group events, and quite a few are new ones. So I have here a mix of tips and tricks. On the agenda, you can see what I would be covering. And then, you know, as you guys have questions, let us know and we'll try to answer them. Okay, so I have divided the session into two parts. There's tips, NetSuite tips, and then tricks. I would like to go through the tips you know, somewhat quickly, so we have a little bit more time than the tricks. Tricks have some custom solutions that would require more in-depth view. Okay. So let's start with our tip number 1, email alerts on record changes. Now, a lot of you guys might be aware of this. Some of you might not, but when you create a save search, you can notify users about records that are being created or updated. Now I'm going to go into NetSuite as well. So I'm going to go back and forth between the slide and NetSuite. So give me a second here. So in my NetSuite, if I open up one of my save searches, let's see if I can go and open it up from here. We can do AP aging. So any of the save search, doesn't matter whichever one you're looking at. If you edit the search and you go to email, so this is where the settings are. So you have a couple of checkboxes here. First of all, if you want to send email alerts, and this is what controls the behavior if you want to get updated when the records gets created or updated. You also have the second option, which is send emails according to schedule. Now these two options are independent of each other and manage separate tasks. So alerts are, you know, as the name suggests, gets created when a record is being updated or record is being created. Email according to schedule, send email according to schedule is really sending you the save search results. And you can summarize those results, and you can also send save search results even if there are none to be furnished. So the one I'm looking at right now is this one, send email alerts on records are created or updated. Now, once you check that, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, you can see, you can select which recipients want to be included or should be notified of this records being created and updated. Now, before I go to recipients, you might be asking, which records am I really being notified of? So it depends which record the save search was created for. So when you create a save search, you have to select a record type, and that's the record type that it's really checking if that record is getting updated or created. So it could be, you know, a transaction record, it could be a customer, a vendor record, so things like that. To get a list of all the record types that are available on the save search, all you have to do is come to reports, and if you click on new search, which is going to open right here, it just lists you, shows you all the different record types that are available. So this includes custom record types as well as the core native record types. Okay, so on the recipients, you can pick anybody, you know, from your contacts, your customers, employees, groups, partners, vendors. Any one of them could be notified, so it's pretty free form, you know, as long as one of these record is in NetSuite and it has an email address, they could get notification. So be wary of that. Most likely the alerts on record changes would be internal. Another way to pick recipients is through the results. So let's say you have sales reps that needs to be notified whenever an opportunity record gets updated, an opportunity record gets created, that's assigned to them. So you can actually come here, and in here you can pick the sales rep on the opportunity. So if I come down here and I can pull up my opportunity transaction, and out of that, on the opportunity field, now it's not showing you all the opportunity fields because it's only showing the ones that have an email address or that could be notified. So just by selecting opportunity : sales rep, it's going to go and make sure that sales rep gets an email alert whenever the opportunity gets modified or created. Now, to make this functional, you also have to have the record type on the saved search match up to opportunity. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, and you can also say check if you want to send it on update, and once you select that, you can also pick if only recent changes would be included. Okay, now another important option on this is this update fields. Now there could be tons of fields, you know, on any transaction or entity records. Now which ones of those are you interested in knowing that they were modified? So you can pick and choose which fields you want to be included, and that's really what you know, what can drive your updates and alerts. Okay, so that's an important one. You can also see which, when the old value was such and such, only then send me an alert, and you can have that in here as well. So a lot of good features that are built into these email alerts, and they are, all of them are kind of embedded or part of the safe search framework within NetSuite. And then you can also have a custom message that you can include in your email. So from whoever, you can actually change who the alert is being sent from, the subject line, the introduction, and different fields that you can insert as well as part of this email, the alert. Now, there are a couple of also options available to you if you want to, if you are scheduling this, or instead of email alert, you're sending a email results. You can send them as CSV, an Excel file, a PDF. For email alerts, you can also include view record links. So from the email, they can click on the link and, let's say, view the opportunity record. Okay, and schedule does not apply to email alerts. It's mostly for this options and email according to schedule, which sends out safe search results. Okay, so that's the email alerts feature that's kind of hidden within the safe search framework that not a lot of people know about. So I wanted to highlight that, and I have included the different capabilities that are available through that option. Okay, let us know if you have questions on this. I'm going to move on to the next tip. Keyword search and lookups, I have covered it before, but it's an important one, so I cover it, you know, as much as I have time. So what happens is, a lot of time when you are new to NetSuite, and you know, NetSuite by default on any lookup searches by or matches the beginning of the whatever fields you're looking up. So in this case, let's say I'm on a sales order and I'm looking up an item. Now I have to type the beginning letters of the item to actually match it up, right? Otherwise it won't find it. If I have just the keywords of my SKU, I won't be able to find that correctly within NetSuite. To include that, to make sure the keyword matching is working, I have to go through, let me actually come through here, set preferences. And under analytics, there is this option called pop-up search uses keywords. Once I enable that, only then I'm able to then include keywords in my pop-ups. And this is true for customer lookups, vendor lookups, item lookups, any of the lookup fields within NetSuite. So let me see if I can quickly show you that. Give me a second here. I'll start with a new transaction. So, hold on. Get up here. Cancel. Yep. So I have not saved this preference yet. Okay, so I just checked it. I just want to show you guys. So here, if I type Aaron, so it picks up my Aaron Abbott, right? Now, if I just type Abbott instead of Aaron, you would see that it's not going to find, or it's not able to find Abbott. Okay, so let me show you that. So it doesn't find Abbott, although Abbott is part of the last name for the customer. Now, if I go here and I save, I make sure pop-up search uses keywords is checked, and I click save. And then I come back and let's just start over. So it has a chance to reflect on those settings. And now here, I type Abbott, and you see it picks up 2 names now that have Abbott in the last name. So that enable keyword in pop-ups is very helpful, you know, for quick data entry and also any of the pop-ups within NetSuite. Okay, so that's the second tip. So let me know if you guys had questions on that. Next one is a quick one. NetSuite. Yes.
Just going to interrupt you real quick. Going back a couple of steps, we had a couple of people in the chat talk about using the percentage symbol in the search for wildcarding.
Yes.
And that was kind of offered up as an alternative to what you were pointing out, right?
Yeah, so percentage you can use as a wildcard search, although I'm not sure if it is going to match it up on the customer where the name might be on separate fields. But yeah, that option is certainly available, that you can use %, that's a wildcard, and it goes and matches up, you know, anything that's remaining. So to do that, let me see if I can demonstrate that here. So if I add %, which is really a wildcard, it can go and then match up whatever you want, starting on the left or right. So I can, in this case, you know, because I have keyword matching enabled, that's what shows up. But let's say if I turn off my keyword matching and go back to my sales entry form, let's close this. So now if I enter %, if you remember, it was before, when the keyword matching was enabled, it was giving me 2 results. It actually was pulling up Sarah as well, because AAR matched up within the Sarah name, right? But here it's a mixed bag. You can use %, but the keyword matching actually gets you better results. Does that make sense?
Excellent. And I think we also had 2 questions simultaneously, one in chat and one in Q&A, about a global preference. So usually preferences are only applied to the specific user that's logged in. Is there a way to set up the pop-up search uses or keywords as a global setting so that it applies across the board to your entire deployment?
Yes, of course. And you can set that up on the user rule. So there's a global preference that you can set up, and you can deploy it and have it rolled out as part of the user role. And, you know, that's available to everyone that's assigned to that role. Okay.
And just a reminder, keep your questions rolling in. And if you could, try to use the Q&A interface. That Q&A interface is going to be public to everybody after the event so that you can see the questions and how they were answered. So if you put it into that interface, you're going to get a record of it.
Thank you, Craig, for that. Now for the email signature, I'm going to go over this very quickly. If you want to have your email signature included in the emails that go out from NetSuite, you can actually have a well-formatted HTML-based signature, all part of the user profile under General Preferences tab. Okay, so as you can see, I have my name in bold and then my company name below that. So it supports HTML, so you can take HTML and just plug in there, and you know that comes in very handy. Okay. Next up, making changes to log periods. This comes up, quite often. Keep in mind that it actually is for locked periods. It's not for closed periods. What do I mean by that? So you have open periods where you're allowed, any user, you can post transactions based on their role permissions, and everything is allowed. Within locked periods, only administrator roles or people that have administrator roles and people that have this override period restriction permission are able to make changes to the GL, to the posted transactions. Under closed period, nobody is allowed to make changes. Okay, so this setting, override period restrictions, only is available or only makes sense if the period is locked. If the period is closed, you won't be able to do this. Okay. So under role, it's located under setup, and you can see override period restrictions. There's another way to do this as well, and I'm going to quickly show you that. So under employee, you can come here, and under access, you have roles and you have global permissions. Now, global permissions, can override some of the role-based permissions that are available to this employee. And under global permissions, I can actually have an override period restriction just available for this employee. Okay, and I can add that. Right, so that option is certainly available. Global permissions, by the way, are not used that often, and they are not advised, just because they're hard to track, and once you make those changes, that permission is set for that user. There's no way to take it back unless you want to go and edit that access right for the user. Okay, so that's making changes to the log periods. Next up, document type custom fields. So a very handy document type custom field that's available to you. Now, whenever you use the document type, it would upload the file. It will let you upload the files, and the files are kept on the file cabinet. So let me demonstrate that. So let's take a look at this item right here. It's a serialized inventory item, and it's for a washer, and I have this product data sheet, which is a PDF file, and the PDF file is stored in a custom document type. So when I look at the custom field, it's set up as a document, and the file gets stored onto the file cabinet. Okay, so that's, you can have a lot of files, a lot of different document type fields that you can attach to items, customers, vendors, transactions. You also have an option within NetSuite to attach files. If you come under communications and files, you can also attach multiple files, but they only show up under communications or activities and then files. These document type fields, you can place them anywhere on the form, so that's why they're handy. Okay. Next up, item fulfillment, receive, saves are returning 3 rows per line. So what's the problem, or what's the mystery there? Now, I'm not sure if you guys have run save searches on item fulfillment, but what happens is that NetSuite would combine the GL impact with the item fulfillment line. So let me show you what that looks like. Now, this is one of the tricks that we had to do to fix this. So let me go to my save search. And I have this item fulfillment test save search that I have created. Now, as you can see, I have an item fulfillment that's sitting on the sales order, and it's the same item. There's cable, SCSI cable, and I'll open this here, and it's being repeated. The same item is being repeated, although, I think it's just that one item on that's actually there is 2 items on that sales order, but both of those items are repeated 3 times. On the first one, the amount is 0 for the fulfillment, which is fine. But you have a second one where you have an amount debit, and then you have a third one where you have an amount credit. An amount debit is for cost of goods sold, and amount credit is for other current assets. Amount debit is for cost of goods sold. So why are we getting these 2 additional rows with my item fulfillment? That's because it's showing you the GL impact, and in some cases it comes in handy because if you want to get cost of goods sold off your item fulfillment, this is the only way to get it. Okay. Now, but how do we if you only want to see one line or the legitimate line for the item fulfillment, how can we hide the other lines that are not relevant to us? So I'll show you two ways to do this. First way is to use a mod function. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to create a formula field. So I'm going to create a numeric formula field, and I'm going to use mod function, which is a remainder. And I'm going to look at my line ID. And that line ID is, if you guys saw, it was 0, 1, or 2 for the 3 lines. So I'm going to take a mod of line ID with 3, and I'm going to say, if that equals to 0, then only have those lines show up in my search. Okay, so save and run. And drum roll. So here, you see that I had 6 lines on that sales order 110. Now I'm seeing only 2 lines, the primary lines that are available. The other lines go away, right? You don't have the debit, credits account, types account, and any of the information there. And it's true for the rest of the lines as well. So this is a quick way of getting rid of the lines that you don't want on item fulfillment. Same is true for item receipts. So now another way of handling this, you can also narrow it down by account type. So let's say if I don't want to, if I'm not comfortable doing a formula, I can also look at account type, and I can say if the account type is none, is not set, then show me that line. If the account type is set, meaning it has probably tied to a GL impact, then don't show me those lines. And here you can see it still works. I don't have any of my GL impact lines here, just the main lines on the item fulfillment. Okay. And similar, you can also, if you are only interested in COGS, cost of goods sold amounts, you can, by the way, you can come here and you can change this. Instead of none, you can come here and look at your COGS. And if I do that, then it should show me my COGS amount. So now if you see the line ID instead of 0 is 1 and 4, and it's showing me my actual COGS amount, my cost on those items. Okay. So let me know if you guys have questions on this. That's what I've highlighted here, the 2 solutions that I went over. Okay.
I'll say there are some questions popping up in the Q&A in the chat, but I feel like our moderators are doing a good job of answering them. So let's push forward.
Okay, nice. So next up is also another, I actually have questions about this before, so I wanted to bring this up. So there is an events Google Map portlet. And we can actually work with you guys if you want to customize it as well for your usage. But it's a handy portlet, and it allows you to see, for example, your appointments on a map, and it also has drill down capabilities. So let me show you guys what that looks like. So I'm going to go to my dashboard, and I'm going to click on personalize and custom portlet. drag to your dashboard. And here it is, my map. Now, in here, if I click on it, it actually shows me my lunch appointment. And if I click on it, I can drill down to that appointment. And it opens up my appointments within the activity. Okay. Now, this could be modified to include your customers, vendors, partners, even addresses on transactions. So all of this, you know, it could be quite handy, especially if you're interested in, you know, where all my customers are. And we can easily modify that. One issue that we have ran into, and you guys have to be clear on this, is that it's using Google Mapping API. And Google Mapping API, it used to be free, but now it's part of the Google Cloud Platform, and you actually have to come and create credentials and get an API key, which then gets added to that dashboard portlet. So it could be, you know, otherwise it doesn't work properly. So you have to make sure that you come to Google Cloud Platform and generate an API key under their mapping APIs. And then that API key is then used within this Google portlet.
Hussain, Sean's asking, is that a native NetSuite module, or is that a custom product?
So it was available. I'm not sure if it's still available from NetSuite. It actually was created by NetSuite team. I am not sure if it's still available, but for all of our demo instances, we have access to it. So it is actually from NetSuite. Okay.
Excellent.
And if you guys want to, how much time I have? 45. Okay. So I can quickly show you the actual script that drives this as well. So filter this by portlets, and then event Google Maps integration portlet. And here it is. Now, all I had to do to make it work, so it was created, you know, a few years back, but all I had to do was insert my key right here to make it work. So I have my key here, and it also does geocoding on your addresses. So it actually used both to show the map and also do geocoding. So I had to put the API key in both places to make it work. Okay. So that brings me to my last topic. And this is advanced PDF HTML templates. And what I want to, there's a lot you can talk about when it's advanced PDF HTML templates. They're highly customizable. There's a lot you can do with it. But the one thing I want to touch base today on is suitelets, because suitelets give you another level of customization capabilities that you can include within your PDF, and especially the printouts that go out to customers. And I'll cover a specific scenario so you guys can see the power behind it. Now, first thing you have to keep in mind, the advanced PDF HTML templates are tied to the form. So you have to, in order to use it, you have to make sure that the printing type is set to advanced on the form that you are using, okay? And the print template is then lets you select which version of the advanced PDF templates you want to use, okay? I actually have an example of an invoice that I'm gonna go over. So this invoice, if I go and customize the form, hopefully it loads quickly. Now, while it's, okay, I think it came up. Okay, so you have to make sure this advanced is true, and then it has all the different versions of the PDF, advanced PDF templates available. I've created one for, you know, this NUG NetSuite user group session, so I'm gonna pick that. Now, what I have done in it is called a suitelet. Now, you have to also understand that it is using a free marker templating engine. So there is a whole template guide for free marker that's available to you. And I have included the link there, but I will also bring it up here. And there is lots and lots of features and functions that are available through free marker that you can utilize within the advanced PDF HTML templates. You can do loops, you can pull up values from fields, you can do condition statements, you can do directives. So very wealthy set of features. Now, this is my test invoice PDF HTML template. So I'm looking at the HTML side of it. You can also look at the visual side, but since I wanted to include my suitelet, that's why I'm looking at this. On the suitelet, what I have done is on one of the totals row on the column, I have included this directive here. And this directive is actually making call out to my suitelet. What my suitelet is doing is actually I have two functions within my suitelet. So let's go through one of them. So let's go back to my invoice, and I'm going to click on print. So at this point, it goes and creates an invoice for me using the advanced PDF HTML template. But as you can see, this welcome to NetSuite user group is coming from my suitelet. And the script for that suitelet looks something like this. So if I want to preview it, so there I created actually two different functions. I'm calling the first one here, welcome to NetSuite user group, and that's what it's writing out, right? Very simple and you know, very easy to replicate. Now, what if you have something a little bit more complicated? Something that I came up with, and you know, it could be handy, is what if you want to auto charge the credit card on file for the customer on this invoice, but you want to let the customer know that that's the policy and you're going to charge the card. Now, the card itself is not available on the invoice. Now, with that, I actually also want to show you guys something else. When you're working with advanced PDF HTML templates, you need to know what fields are available. And same thing is a lot of time true with safe searches as well. One of the quickest way to find what fields are available is by putting ampersand XML equals to T. Now what that does is it gives me all the data that's used to create this invoice form in an XML format. Okay, and I can come here and I can see, okay, is credit card or any of that information included in here? Obviously it's not. So what I have to do is that I have to come and look up the credit card from the customer record. Okay, so what am I doing there? Let me show you guys that. So let's open up the customer quickly. So on the customer, I have a list of credit cards. So these are all my credit cards, and I have a default credit card, this one, 8562. So I want to show this default credit card on my invoice, okay? Now what I did, and actually I'll show you the code here. This is my test it's just easier to read, that's why I'm bringing it up in Notepad++. So I'm getting a parameter from my suitelet, loading up the customer, getting the credit cards, iterating through them and finding whichever one is the default one, and then generating this string and then returning that string. Okay. So let me go through the script. I'm going to edit this. Instead of test function, I'm going to call my test2 function, save. And now if I print my invoice and I scroll down, it shows me, welcome to NetSuite user group, gives me my name, Aaron Abbott, and says your credit card on file ending in 8562 will be automatically charged. So it's just a simple demonstration of the power behind Suitelets and how you can include those Suitelets within advanced HTML or PDF HTML templates. Okay. So let me stop there. See if any of you guys have questions.
So Hussain is going to stick around with us after the session and hop into that Q&A panel and answer anything that might still be open. But if you've got questions, now's a good time. I will be checking out the Q&A and moderate and throw a couple of questions Hussain's way. So this is not necessarily a topic, Hussain, that we've already discussed, but we did discuss a locked period. So let's go back to this question from Garrett. What is the best practice for offsetting a credit memo which is open and in a locked period and won't be used for a customer? He suggests possibly creating a fake invoice to apply to it, create a journal entry, and then apply a payment against it. Anything that you could suggest there?
I think if it's in a locked period, you could technically go and make the adjustment to the credit memo. If you don't want to make an adjustment to a posted transaction, just because you want to keep that audit trail, then yeah, the best option is to make a GL adjustment. Creating a fake invoice, I'm not sure if it's as ideal as just creating a GL adjustment entry.
Okay, can you possibly show the script again that called the credit card info?
Yeah.
I'm also going to leave these questions open in Q&A so that Hussain can circle back to them and type the answer out. That way we have it on record for our Q&A. Excellent. Samantha asks about the show all field. Or how can you show all fields?
Where?
Not quite sure. Samantha, you want to expand upon that in the Q&A a little bit? And Eric Barrow just noted, any particular reason why we're displaying scripting in 1.0 when 2.0 is available? Or sorry, 2.1 is available?
Just because I had it working from before. That was in SuiteScript 1.0. So it's an old script that I didn't have a chance to convert it to 2.0.
Excellent. Hussain, I don't know, why don't you open up that Q&A panel there and see if there's anything else that you can field in the couple of minutes we've got left.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the QA panel. Let's see. Can we make... Is there a way to ignore special characters when searching for... you could use wildcards. Actually, let me bring it up. I have that here.
Excellent. So the question is there a way to ignore special characters when searching? For example, search TSPV RBB returns TSPV-RBB. Item numbers not consistently formatted, and users have a hard time remembering where the special characters have to live, right?
Yeah, so you have an option to, you have two wildcards. You have a percent and then you have an underscore. Percent matches any length string and underscore matches a single character. So you could use either one of them to see if that helps you searching those specific patterns. Okay.
So adding like the wildcard in front of the first 4 letters of that, instead of having to type the whole thing out with the dash, that's going to help surface it.
That should. If there are specific examples, we can surely look at them as well.
Yeah, I will say, thank you to all of our participants for your questions. Some of these are specific to your particular needs. Maybe we can talk about them in chat, or we can talk about them with other users. So if you have a question that you want to go out to kind of all of the users in the group, I think the chat is the place to do it. If you have a question about a specific part of our presentations today, then that's where the Q&A is more appropriate. So thank you all for the questions. Again, with the growing pains of this being a new process for us, we're getting our feet wet here. So we hope that we are answering your questions, and everybody, we really appreciate the participation here. So Hussain, you got another minute or two. I'm just going to let you wrap up if there's any other questions you want to answer. And everybody just remember that Hussain's going to be around for the rest of the day. He's going to help us moderate the Q&A, and we will also have an open forum Q&A at the very end of our presentations today, where you can ask more questions that might be more specific to your personal needs or the needs of your company on the platform. All right.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions there. I'll try to quickly answer them. There's a question from Sean: is it possible to join data from multiple safe searches? The answer there is yes. It's not supported within NetSuite, but there are ways around it. And we actually are going to cover that on our second masterclass on safe search, and that's coming up. Please stay tuned for that. Another question from an anonymous attendee about credit card import. So credit card import is not as trivial. We actually have done it before for a number of clients. So, we can take that offline. If you want our help, just you can contact us and we can work with you on importing those credit cards. Okay. So Jamie had a question in ship to select. The only option I have is custom. What does that mean? In ship to select. Okay, Jamie, if you can elaborate on that, maybe I can answer it later. Anonymous attendee, when we upload vendor bills, can we upload a negative amount? I have to look into that. I am not sure if that's supported. I think it also probably would depend what item you have on the vendor bill, and if that item would support a negative amount, like a discount or a markdown.
All right. As always, Hussain, everybody wants to pick your brain. I think we're going to have you stick around. But for now, I just want to say thank you and give you a round of applause for a great presentation, even though I'm the only one that you can hear clapping. I'm sure everybody else appreciates it. Oh, there you go, Michelle, too. I'm sure everybody else appreciates it. And I am going to go ahead and take back screen control here and get us back into our presentation.
And next up, we will be bringing up Thomas Grigely from FloQast for a quick commercial break.
All right.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, I'll give this a go and kick us off. All right, hello everybody. My name is Thomas Grigely. I am the channel manager at FloQast and really specialize in creating our partnerships in the NetSuite ecosystem. Really grateful to be a part of this session. So really excited to join you guys here today. So for those of you who are not familiar with FloQast, we actually provide month-end close management software that was created by accountants and auditors who lived the problem. And what we do is help accounting teams shorten the month-end close and streamline the audit. So in today's session, I just want to dive a layer deep into how we're actually doing this. So you can think of FloQast as a command center for your month-end close, almost acting like a bridge between NetSuite and Excel. And in this bridge, what we're doing is centralizing workflow for your month-end checklist or your close procedures, centralizing all your reconciliations, and then all your supporting documentation. So first, I want to dive into what we're referring to when we talk about close procedures and how we're actually centralizing workflow. A major value add FloQast brings to the accounting team is these workflow capabilities. And it's because we're able to take your stagnant Excel checklist or list of closed procedures and turn it into that interactive workflow tool that provides complete visibility to all team members involved in the month-end close. So this checklist actually includes real-time prepare and reviewer sign-offs with time and date stamps, the ability to document qualitative review or any back and forth communication between the team, and then link review notes or any reports as well. So think a centralized place to have all the information you need at your fingertips. So by having one place to manage the month-end close, team members and process owners can literally filter by what should I do next? What's late, what's ready for review. And this really eliminates the need for daily status update meetings, long email threads, and helps accountants use their time more efficiently. The second part we're centralizing is reconciliations, and there's really two parts to this. So the first being trial balance tieouts or TB tieouts. So with FloQast, we're able to automate this process with our integration into NetSuite and Excel. So this is a direct API that's pulling trial balance data from NetSuite and a direct API into Excel that's pulling ending balances from reconciliations. And this means that across all entities, all account recs, you can literally click one button and see the latest numbers so you assure your accounts are tying out and stay tied out. So like our checklist, there are prepare reviewer sign-offs here with time and date stamps, the ability to leave review notes, and really importantly, the ability to set material thresholds. So this means that if account that was signed off on by a prepare reviewer goes out of balance, your entire team is made aware in real time. The second part of FloQast Auto Rec is really helping clear or reconcile transactions that have a high volume. Think of NetSuite's bank rec module. Well, FloQast can do this across credit cards, across clearing accounts, intercompany accounts, accruals. The possibilities are really endless. It's any two sets of transaction data we can upload. And a really nice part about this is that there's no rules that go into making this these clearing of transactions happen. It's just through our algorithm and some formatting, so it does not affect our 2 to 4 week setup. And lastly, to summarize here, the last component of FloQast is centralizing all supporting documentation like prepare, reviewer, sign-offs, review notes, PDFs, basically anything you need to have a clean audit trail. So a nice, easy to use application that allows the accounting team to have all the information they need to perform the close and then to review the close and to have access to all that for when the audit comes around. Now, FloQast has continued to have tremendous success in the NetSuite ecosystem. So we've actually surpassed 900 clients now, and over a third of those leverage NetSuite and FloQast jointly. A major reason for this is because our company was founded by accountants who live the problem and understand how accountants actually work. So we create software that adapts to accounting teams' current processes, and this is why we're able to get deployed in only 2 to 4 weeks, 8 to 10 hours of really one person's time. You'll notice here that the logos in this slide range across all industries. The commonalities of these companies, they usually have multiple accountants working on the close, maybe 4 plus people. Maybe they have 30 reconciliations plus. I know Okta on this slide had one person reviewing 80 reconciliations and obviously hundreds involved in the close. It can be a really powerful tool for things of that nature. But what I love about FloQast is that so many different types of teams are able to get value. You've heard me maybe say a Primo was able to take a 20 to 30 day close and bring it down to a 2 to 3 day close with FloQast. But something that's new that we just came up in these last month or two is Zoom. Zoom's been the flagship company that has enabled remote work for all types of organizations with their platform here. But their accounting team at Zoom actually credits FloQast with enabling remote work so that they can get through the month-end close, even though everybody's working from home here. So with that, I really just encourage you, if you're experiencing burdens with the month-end close process or have gone through a tough audit, get curious and learn how FloQast would work for you. My email is thomas@flowcast.com. Our sales team actually has accountants on every single demonstration, and they've been able to bring so much value to accounting teams because we're not just selling software, we're actually accountants who solve accounting problems. So they take a really consultative approach, and I've literally seen them help an accounting team restructure the way they're performing flux analysis and grouping accounts and consolidations. So it's really the people that make a difference here at FloQast, and I hope you guys have a chance to experience that. But thank you very much, Michelle and Craig. Really appreciate the time here.
All right, thanks so much. We are moving at a good clip. As always with the user groups, we are a few minutes behind schedule, but If you've ever experienced our live events, you know that that is the case normally. So we're actually pretty on schedule for today, and I think everybody's excited about our next session, 2020.1. We do it, twice a year at the user groups. We discuss the scheduled release updates, and today we have a great guest speaker with us from NetSuite, Mr. Gavin Davidson. And I am going to hand it over to Gavin, and we're going to get started checking out 2020.1.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to stop my screen share, and you can take control.
And hopefully, we might even talk a little bit about 20.2. So.
Ooh. Don't get us excited now.
Got to keep things interesting.
All right,
okay.
Gavin, we can see your screen, we can hear your voice, and
Excellent.
we're ready to go.
Perfect. So yeah, welcome. I'm going to talk about some of the things that we released in the first release this year, but at the same time, try and give you some context where there's other things that we're working on. And at the end, I have a couple of sneak peeks of the next release. One of my jobs at NetSuite is to write the content that ends up going into sneak peeks and the release notes and that sort of thing. And we just wrapped up writing those for the second release, and there's some pretty exciting things coming down the pipe. So I will talk about some of those as well. And towards the end, if there's questions that you have, then I will try and answer those too. So quick safe harbor statement. This wasn't in there originally, but seeing as I am going to talk about some potential future functionality, then I thought I'd throw this in there just for some added fun. And so we're going to go through different pieces of functionality based on different types of companies. And this really reflects, how we go to market, right? I mean, NetSuite goes to market by vertical or industry, and so subscription is one of the things that we've really focused on. We have a bunch of different subscription pieces of functionality. We have suite billing, we have contract renewals, that sort of thing. And one of the things that we added in the first this year was just some added capabilities around managing subscriptions and managing changes in bulk. So that's been a recurring theme. We've done that in other areas, and we'll talk a little bit later about doing that, how we added some functionality to do that around time entry records and that sort of thing. And so really the idea is just to try and give you some more tools, make it easier to go and manage larger volumes of invoices and identify where there might be invoices that maybe shouldn't be invoiced at all, based on usage rates and that sort of thing. And then next we're going to talk about service-based companies. So now we're talking about project management. And we're specifically talking today about NetSuite projects as well. So for services-based companies, we added a new work breakdown structure in the project module, and that makes it easier to go and set up your budgets and then view your budgets, etc. And there's also some better cost calculations, and you can easily identify items that have been miscoded when it comes to time and/or expenses, etc. And more configurability about how you configure what your project profitability looks like and what actually goes into making up those numbers. So it's a little bit more flexibility as to what you want to include. Everyone has a slightly different view of what they want to include in their overall project cost and then profitability as well. So this is my personal area of expertise. I'm responsible for the manufacturing, distribution, and food and beverage verticals at NetSuite. And we've been intimately involved in what we've done around supply chain management the last 5-6 years. And so I've got a lot more background in this part of the business. So we talked about, I think last time I actually went we did this event in California. I think it was last year. Did the tour out there, and at that point talked to them about AI and the supply chain control tower and supply allocation and that sort of thing. And you know, we've started to use a lot more of the native Oracle tools throughout the system. And one of the things that we've plugged into are their AI and machine learning tool sets. People often ask what our strategy is around artificial intelligence and machine learning. And really, it's not that different from the rest of NetSuite. Our overall strategy with AI and machine learning is to not deliver an AI machine learning tool or toolkit. Oracle has that, they sell that, there's ways you can get access to that. But really what we're focused on is using those tools and delivering out-of-the-box solutions that all of our customers can use. So we first of all launched this in the previous release, and on the control tower dashboard, you can turn this on and it will automatically tell you when it thinks that it thought that a purchase order was going to be late. That was extended to transfer orders in the .1 release. In the second release this year, it's going to include sales orders that we predict are late. And then we're going to extend the purchase order functionality as well. So if it finds a purchase order that it thinks is going to be late, it will actually try and recommend an alternate vendor. And so these are all just, this is just something you have to turn on. There is a minimum amount of information that you need for this to really be effective, of course. But again, just an idea of one of the things we're trying to do to build out-of-the-box functionality that our users can take advantage of. So beyond that, then we're also building more workbooks. So using the new Suite Analytics platform and building out-of-the-box workbooks to make it easier to get access to information that you might need. And so that's going to be a recurring theme. Every development team is responsible for delivering their own workbooks that make the information in their part of the business available to customers. So then there's also I talked about order allocations before. This was a pretty major project, and this let you allocate future inventory as well as actual inventory. Previously, you could only commit existing inventory. So the order allocation tools have really made that a lot easier to use. And then what we delivered in the first release this year is a separate set of tools that lets you that will identify allocations that are resulting in exceptions, so late orders, and then it will give you a couple of different ways to go and reallocate the inventory. So basically, like you steal from one order and use that inventory or future inventory for another order. And there's various ways that you can decide how you want to go and do that. This is an example of then this is something that was really a standard customization, you might say, something that our professional services team had built over the years, and this is the ability to go and create a purchase order, automatically create a work order in the background. So this is if you're buying product from a third-party manufacturer, outsourced contract manufacturing. And so you place the PO on them, it creates the work order in the background. And then that work order, if you have inventory placed at your CM, then it lets you consume that inventory as part of the receipt process. So again, something that's been done many times by different customers and by our own professional services teams. And this is just now part of the core product. We also launched a manufacturing mobile application that's available. This is again no charge. You just got to ask your rep for it. And so this is built on the same platform that the new WMS is built on. And so it's fast, it's consistent in how it works. It's also the first time that we've had a mobile app that works with the old light manufacturing, so basically work orders and assemblies. If you are using WIP and routings, this is not available for that at this point. That's coming in the future release. But the vast majority of our customers are using either the old, what was called light manufacturing, or work orders and assemblies. And this lets you go and record your builds right on the floor or during the actual manufacturing process itself. So it's great new functionality, and this is going to be extended quite significantly as we work on some other new things in this area too. And then the other thing we did was there was a couple of fields on a work order, the actual production start date and start and end dates. And so those are going to be automatically updated by various parts of the system in the next release as well. That will also be updated by the new manufacturing mobile app. And so that just makes it easier to go and figure out when an order actually did start and end, as opposed to when it was meant to start and end. And then we also, there's the quality management tablet. And so we've done a few things with this. There's in the first release this year, we changed the UI a little bit to make it a little bit easier if you're doing you know, a higher volume of sampling. In the second release this year, you'll actually be able to import CSV files with their test results, and those will be processed by using the same rules. So that kind of rounds out that functionality as well. And then there's the GS1 barcodes, which, and so these barcodes contain multiple pieces of information. It could be, you know, expiration date, a lot number, serial number, that sort of thing. And it parses all the fields, all the data out into the relevant fields through the handheld. Okay, on to financials, GL, cash management, etc. A couple of different things to talk about here. And so this is one that we launched. This is a great initiative, and this is basically we have a direction from Evan to make, you know, NetSuite financials as easy to use as QuickBooks for possible. And so this is one of the first areas that we identified that we really need to make some improvements was with connecting to banks and getting the bank information in. And so we launched this this new bank integration suite app, or called Bank Feeds. And that kind of ties into something else I wanted to talk about, which is the new Suite App Marketplace. So I'm not sure if you've seen this or not, but there should be in your account a Suite App tab. And so this is a combination of all of our, it's both NetSuite apps that are being deployed this way, and also our SDN partners. So for example, there's the bank feeds. If you want to go and get that bank feed app, you can actually go to your Suite App tab in your account. As long as you have permission, you can then go and install it directly. So it's really much more like installing an app on your iPad. And so depending on, of course, the partners have control over how they make that available to you. But once it's available to you, and if maybe there's a fee involved, installing it will be a lot easier than it has been in the past. So for example, the manufacturing mobile app that I talked about a few minutes ago is going to be featured in this same area. So you won't have to call support anymore or call your rep to get apps installed. You should be just be able to go and browse the apps and find out more information about them, and then choose which ones to install if they're available to you. So I think that's going to make a big difference. And then this is another extension of using the Oracle AI machine learning tools. And so we're using some of that functionality to help with doing the matching during the bank reconciliation process. And so just made it a little bit more intuitive and intelligent as to how that worked. You also notice as well in this screen, a slightly different UI here, where there's two different lists side by side. That's something that we're doing with pretty much every new feature. We have UX designers, and they are working with customers much more than they had in the past. They're walking customers through wireframes and mock-ups of how something's going to work, getting feedback as to how they want it to work. And they're actually building custom UI elements, UX elements for every single feature that's being launched in the system. So you're going to see that a lot more. A lot of more of these little pieces of visual screen is easier to use, and that's all based on customer and user feedback. Additional reports and are being generated as well. This is for the order balancing segments. This has been something that we're continuing to work on. And then there's some more options around lease management for fixed assets. This is not lease accounting, but it's for your fixed assets have a lease attached to them. And then some more diagnostics around fixed assets and trying to make it easier to identify what processes you have to run and when you should run them. So on the costing side, procurement, time and expenses, etc. There's a few things that we did here. And so basically we have this suite approval, our approval framework that all approvals are going to be run through. And we're just extending those to more transactions. In this case, it was extended to and then also we offered prepayment against purchase orders. This is something that's very common in Europe, and so not always as common in North America. But NetSuite is basically the go-to market product for Oracle globally now, and so we're spending a lot of time on localizations and creating international features for international businesses. As another example of that is the bank feed functionality that we talked about in the second release this year. Will also be available to international businesses as well. So the first phase was US and Canada, and in the second release this year, it will work with international. And then also just more ability to go and modify time records in books. Section 2. Then this lets you go and basically go and dictate what GL accounts expense report lines post to, and so just make sure that you get the information in the right place, and that receipts, for example, would end up being in the right folder, and that the users have access to go and view those too. Couple of things, and actually I think it's just one thing in here. Custom transactions we launched a few years ago, and so this is really being extended now, where you can actually go and create custom sales orders or custom purchase orders. An example here is a pro forma invoice. If you want to go and create a separate custom transaction to go and do something that's a little bit unique. And rather than just doing a GL entry or journal entry for it, you can actually go and create a custom transaction, and then that will be noted as that transaction type throughout the system as well. So this gives you more flexibility and lots of things you can do with this, and some pretty cool functionality as well. So I want to talk quickly as well about, so I'm in the vertical product management team. There's horizontal product management and development, and then there's vertical product management. And so just to give you an idea of how we're organized, so there's all the verticals. One of the things that we were created to do was to try and bring some vertical industry expertise to the way that we develop functionality, and also decide which functionality to go and work on. So one of the things that we do is we come up with themes that we think are important to the overall business. And so you can see a few of them here, whether it's multi-dimensional inventory, which might include things like catch weights and that sort of thing. Autonomous supply chain, we've done a lot around supply chain, but really making the functionality auto sense and adjust and make suggestions to the users, like we talked about with the AI machine learning stuff in the control tower. Optimizing projects, and even things like hybrid business models. So, when we talked about subscriptions at the start, we're seeing a lot of service companies that are wanting to sell products, a lot of product companies are wanting to sell some kind of service or subscription to go with it. And so this is kind of the way that we see this. And there's really broad things at the bottom about simplification of the overall system, making it usable, maintaining usability, and making things consistent globally and that sort of thing. So it's kind of give you an idea into how we do those things. And then what we do is we group features into almost like a depth chart. So and so here are your features by theme. And so this is how we keep track of, is this still a theme that is relevant? What is it that we're working on that is that's going to feed into that? And then so here's a couple of different themes. So here for supply chain, for example, we did supply allocation exception management. We talked about that. We launched a static route management app. I'm going to talk about this in a second. Supply planning. Order promising, we're looking at doing some kind of shelf life FIFA allocation. We're going to completely rebuild the manufacturing part of the system as well. And then even in some of these other ones as well, so for projects, project manager notifications, there's expense report, credit card integration coming, that sort of thing. It just kind of gives us an idea that, these are still valid themes and this is what's coming down the pipe in all the different areas. We're then extending that to business processes. You're going to see a lot more around this in the future, and the way that we communicate new functionality based on, right now it's by vertical, it might end up going more of a business process route, and so just reorganize that way, and then right down to key roles within the business. So this is all different ways that we look at features. So when we put something on the roadmap, we have something called a feature record. And so we tag this record with all these different pieces of information. Who it's going to impact? Is it going to end up in a Suite Success Edition? Is it what user profiles is this feature going to impact? What verticals is it going to impact, or industries, that sort of thing? And that kind of gives us a good sense overall of if there's any part of the business that we're overlooking in some way. So that's just kind of backstory on some of the things that we've done, some of the things we released in the first release, and how we decide what to work on. And so now this is the really top secret part. Really nobody outside of NetSuite has seen any of this stuff yet. So hopefully we don't get in trouble. And so a couple of things that I'm very excited about, and hopefully you will be as well. And the first one is, I think I hinted at this last year. We launched the NetSuite demand planning system. I want to say 6-7 years ago. I've been with NetSuite for 10 years almost. And we introduced demand planning. Lots of customers have it. Not enough customers are using it. And so we started 2.5 years ago, then a route of rebuilding that. And well, it's not officially called NetSuite MRP. That's what I'm going to call it for today. And so the first phase of that is in the second release this year. And so the first thing we're concentrating on is the supply side. So the most important thing to note about this is that anyone who has demand planning currently will get this new feature. Basically, what's going to happen is on your demand source, on your the item location configuration line, you'll be able to go and choose MRP as being your supply source. And so basically, this is a completely redesigned system. It creates a planning repository that basically goes, so you go and create the definitions as to what information you want to go include in that repository. You run this. You can do a global change or just a net change. You decide what information ends up in that repository, and then there's a new planning workbench that lets you go and view all of the exceptions, action messages, that sort of thing. It's also multi-location, so you can go and define the relationships between your locations, which location supplies another one, that sort of thing. This also is going to enable what-if analysis. So you're able to have multiple plans in the workbench, and then go and do some analytics on the different plans and figure out what the best ways to go are. And at the end, once you go and approve the orders, then you will also have the ability to go and aggregate orders before they're actually placed. So whether that's purchase orders, transfer orders, work orders, that sort of thing, all of those will end up in the same place you get to them right now. So in the order item screen, for example, there's a new tab for planned orders, and you can consolidate those in there as well. So really, we looked at all the things that were wrong with the existing demand planning solution. A lot of it came down to performance and the inability to process the number of items that were required. And so this whole planning repository approach has really changed that. So you go and define how much information to put into the repository, whether there's a date range, what types of items, and that sort of thing. This is where you go and create your groups. There's item categories. There's item groups. So there's different ways to go and specify that. And so basically, you go and build this repository, and that's a normalized data source, so that from a performance standpoint, you have no issues when you're actually going and figuring out what to go and approve. So that takes us to the planning workbench. And so the planning workbench is then where you go and spend all your time. You can go and filter it by subsidiary, by locations, which locations you want to include. And then you can see over the right-hand side here, if it's an assembly item, you can go and go down to the next level and see what's down there. Across the top here is like how many action messages are within either for all items or within individual items, and you can drill into those. And then once you drill into that, you actually get down to the pegging, so you can go and see exactly for every item and where all the demand is coming from. So complete visibility before you go and make the decision that you want to go with what it is you want to go and do to go and fix that particular problem. And then last but not least, again, this was one of the biggest complaints that we had about demand planning, that there wasn't action messages or exception messages, and there was no aggregation. And so, basically that's again been resolved in this case. So it's generating all those messages, it's generating real planned orders, it's giving you all the pegging information. And then when you go and accept those planned orders, they end up in either the order item screen, the mass create purchase order screen, or the replenish by transfer order screen. And you can see there's a planned orders. You can go and choose which ones to go and release, and you can consolidate them at that stage as well. So super excited about this. It's going to be a big game changer for anyone who has demand planning, and we're excited to see what you think of it. And then last but not least, this has been, I think, one of the top requests from customers for probably the entire 10 years I've been here, some kind of invoice grouping functionality. And so basically what this does is again, this is a free feature. It's going to be the second release this year. You enable it in your account. You choose which customers want to have their invoices grouped, or you want to group their invoices for. And then there's a screen you go to that you go and pick a date range, either an individual customer or you can do it for all customers. There's functionality to group them by PO number, that sort of thing. So there's a few different ways you can group them together. It gives you a preview of what that's going to look like. It basically goes, so it actually takes individual invoices and creates an invoice group. And so that invoice group, then you send that group to the customer, and then when they pay, then it'll go and spread the payment to the individual invoices. You still do end up with individual invoices, but it lets you present a single grouped invoice to the customer, and then they can pay that grouped invoice, and everything gets applied the way it should. So we've been working on this for a while. It's not everything that we want it to be, but we think it covers enough use cases that we decided to release it in the second release this year. So look out for that. And that is all I have to say at this point. But I will have a look and see if there's any questions.
All right, Gavin, thanks so much for a peek behind the curtain at 2020.1 and a little bit of 2020.2.
Just a little bit. There's lots more.
I like your slide that just said shh. That was
yeah. That when it comes to the recording, that everything after that point won't be not in the recording.
If we have to do that to comply, we will certainly edit that out, so only our live audience got to view that part today. I just want to say thank you again. As always, you know, NetSuite is they don't run their user groups, but they support them. So the user groups that are put together all around the country are actually nonprofit 501(c) organizations, administrated by partners and users around the country. If you're joining us from outside of California or New York and you took this opportunity to come on board with us today for the virtual summit, chances are there is a local NetSuite user group near you. So track it down, get involved, and be a part of that. Gavin's going to stick around with us for some Q&A, and he's going to hang out with us and make sure that your questions are answered around 2020.1. And just want to extend another hearty thank you, and again a round of applause for Gavin for his participation today.
All questions on
Thank
here
you, Gavin.
that I can answer quickly if we have time. So there's a question about consolidating about invoice grouping, and is that different from consolidated invoicing? Yes. A full consolidated invoicing solution would take all of the fulfillments, for want of a better word, and create a new invoice, and then that invoice is paid. This still creates individual invoices, and then it lets you go and create a group invoice that then can be presented to the customer. So subtle difference, but we still think it's going to be valuable. For manufacturing mobile, no, it won't work with advanced manufacturing. It's just for it's just for work orders and assemblies. So any work order that doesn't have a routing. So if it's a WIP work order, it will not work. So it's just for the old light manufacturing or work orders and assemblies work orders.
Excellent. Looks like we've got just a couple more minutes if you want to answer any more of those questions live. We're actually back on schedule.
If the roadmap includes a bulk change generation at project level, I've not seen anything around that specifically. Although there's a lot of things that we're working around projects, including looking at optimizing the project record itself. So there's a bunch of things that we're looking at there. Will the Suite Analyst workbook allow the scheduling of reports in various formats? I've not seen anything around scheduling, but I know that was on the roadmap to do. So I've not seen it yet, but I would be surprised if that shows up at some point. Release preview. Okay, is there anything? Yeah, someone suggested something around. Somebody had something about a release preview account. So the thing with release preview, someone was asking about how they know what's in 20.1. The thing with release preview is that if you don't log into it, you lose it. Now that doesn't mean you can't get it back. But basically what happened was, you know, we were generating these preview accounts for all the customers, and something like 90% of the customers never log into the release preview. And so just to state, we figured, okay, we'll start and not giving you a release preview if you don't use it. So just because you've lost it doesn't mean you can't get it back. Call your account rep, tell them that you want your release preview and for the next release. They will check a box on your customer record in the system, and then the next time around you will get a release preview account. So it's not like it's gone forever. It's just that it's gone momentarily, if that makes sense.
Saving a little bandwidth there, right?
Yep. Demand planning and invoice grouping are scheduled for the 20.2 release, that is correct. You should be, so those slides that I showed you are, again, they're heading into the product marketing team. So some variation of that will end up in the sneak peeks and release notes for the .2 release. High volume PS volume businesses, we have to go to each project record and generate changes. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm not. Yeah, I can pass some of these on to people in the appropriate areas. So I'll get these afterwards, right, Michelle? Or you can send me the list of questions.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I will go and get the right answer for them as well.
That would be wonderful.
Cool.
All right. So once again, Gavin, thank you so much. I think we are going to keep moving forward here. Folks, I know it's been a long day already. We're not used to staying on webinars this long, but we really appreciate your attendance, and we encourage you to stick around for the next session and the last session of the day before our open forum Q&A. And we're going to be doing some information on the banking integrations and some of the improvements to banking. But before we do that, again, one more round of applause for Gavin, and then I'm going to hand it on back to Michelle to introduce another one of our sponsors.
Thank you, Craig. But before I introduce our last commercial break of the day, I have been seeing some hosts come in on the LinkedIn NetSuite user groups. Just wanted to remind everyone to take advantage of our online competition to win a $50 Uber Eats gift card. All you have to do is join one of your local groups. I am sending the links again via chat, and then post a comment about a presentation you've seen. So I hope to see a lot more comments coming through. And next up, I'm going to bring on Brandon White from Tipalti.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Can you hear me okay?
You are all good.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon White. I'm a Alliance Manager with Tipalti. Really excited to be here today. I've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about Tipalti as well. Tipalti is a global payables automation platform. So what we do is we reduce accounts payable workflows by up to 80%. Case studies also indicate that we accelerate the monthly close by 25% as well. We're doing this all while enhancing compliance and controls, doing things like collecting and validating tax information, setting up permission-based approvals for invoice approvals, and then we're also screening transactions against OFAC to make sure that you're paying people that you're supposed to be paying. So what we're really aiming to do is, create this autonomous or self-driving accounts payable world. So, how do we do that? So this is the Tipalti solution kind of at a glance. And what we'll do is start up at the 12 o'clock position and work our way around. The first thing that we do is we streamline vendor management. And we do this with a white labeled supplier onboarding portal. So this is where your suppliers or vendors will go into the portal and enter their information, their basic demographic info, their banking info, which payment method they want to be paid in. As they're doing this, Tipalti is proactively validating this information against 26,000 different rules. So we're making sure a routing number is actually a routing number, SWIFT code is a SWIFT code, etc. What's important about this is to notice that we're actually pushing the onus of getting this information onto the vendor and onto the supplier. So we're taking that work away from the AP team. Also, we have a bi-directional sync with NetSuite at this point. So whatever is changed in Tipalti is also changed in NetSuite, and NetSuite to Tipalti, vice versa. We're also doing proactive email communications here. So what that means is kind of the basic questions that an AP team might get. We're fielding those automatically. So yes, your invoice was processed. Yes, your payment was sent, so on and so forth. So just kind of taking some of that really mundane work away from the AP team. Kind of in sync with the supplier management piece is our tax compliance piece as well. This is where we partnered with KPMG to basically take that information that was entered and vetted and to really kind of digitize that tax form, whether it's a W-8 or W-9. And then we're also supporting tax ID collection there for up to 50 different countries as well. So we've got this supplier onboarded and within Tipalti and in NetSuite as well. The next thing they're going to do is submit an invoice to you. So what Tipalti does here is we will take that invoice that was submitted, usually to an AP email inbox. We'll pull it out of there, and then we're going to use OCR to extract all the data from that invoice, from the header levels down to the line levels, and pull it out so the AP team can take a look and make sure that all the numbers are correct and ready to be synced up. At this point, we're doing 2- and 3-way PO matching within NetSuite. So we'll compare the invoice and the POs to make sure all the quantities are correct, all the prices are correct on the invoice as compared to the PO. And if there's a receipt of goods, we'll also match that too to make that 3-way match. At this point too, another time-saving measure that Tipalti is doing is we're using AI or machine learning to actually do approvals routing. So if we see an invoice from company XYZ a few times and we noticed, hey, this was approved by Susan, the manager, then the controller, then the CFO, we're going to just automatically recommend that same approval workflow process. That can be changed on the fly, it can be rearranged if needed, but we're just trying to save that extra step there for you as well. And then what's also interesting here is all of the invoices can be approved on the fly via simple email communications. So no need to go back in to log into Tipalti to actually approve this invoice. You can do it right from your email or right from your phone if you prefer. You can also go in and do email approvals or invoice approvals in mass via the Tipalti platform as well if you choose to do so. Then what really sets Tipalti apart down at the bottom is that we are licensed money transmitter. So what that means is that we have all of the certifications and we're regulated much like a bank. So that's going to enable us to pay out in 120 different currencies using 6 different payment methods. And then finally, we're going to take take all the information from those payment runs, and we're going to reconcile them real time back into NetSuite. And would love to have a conversation with any of you. My email is brandon.white@tipalti.com. Thank you.
All right, Brendan, thanks so much for that. We are just about to dive into our last session for the day before we open up the floor to Q&A. I'm just going to take a minute, number one, to say, get up, stretch your legs, give yourself a little back rub. You've been in it for the long haul. We really appreciate everybody attending for this marathon webinar today. We've got an exciting presentation about NetSuite bank feeds and banking improvements coming up. And I'll make one other note. So you've seen a lot of participation from my company, Business Solution Partners, but we want to reinforce the fact that this is the NetSuite user group, and we want to hear from you, and we want your participation. Users are always welcome to present, to communicate with us, to sponsor. If your company has a great success story about how you use NetSuite, or you've got some tips and tricks for the user group, get in touch with Michelle Cronley, the NetSuite coordinator, and she will facilitate, bringing you on board. The more we get input and activity from our users, the more this is really a traditional user group, and it's more about you, the users. That's really our focus. We're trying to take as much of the user input as possible. It's obviously a lot easier at our in-person events to bring people together and to put more users out in the forefront of this, because you get to talk to each other. So we're also open to ideas that you may have. I saw a couple people talking about forums. Maybe we can get a Slack channel going so that we can communicate with each other. Of course, there's the LinkedIn channel as well. Anything that we can do to facilitate users talking to users and learning from each other, especially in this environment that we're in right now, where we can't necessarily sit across from each other face to face, we are really open to suggestions. So please get in touch with me, get in touch with Michelle. We would love to have more user participation and user-led conversations in this user group as we move forward. It's grown exponentially in the few years that we've been running these, and We want to really tell the community how much we appreciate your participation, and we want to do anything that we can to facilitate better relationships with your peers and your colleagues, and good information coming to you. All right, with that said, sorry, go ahead,
Sorry,
Michelle.
I'm just going to interject and kind of poll the audience and see if anyone want to chat in. Where do we have people attending from today? I'm from Long Island, New York. So is Craig. If anyone wants to type in, I'd love to see where everyone's joining us from today.
Yeah, if you want to throw that up in the chat, tell us where you're coming in from so we have a better idea. Oh, Tijuana.
We have
Okay.
Austin, Texas, Princeton, Ronkonkoma, Lake Tahoe.
Grand
Welcome,
Rapids,
everyone.
Rancho Cucamonga, which is my favorite city in the United States to actually say out loud.
San Francisco. Do we have anyone international? Denver,
Pasadena.
Colorado.
Oh, there's BC, Canada, British Columbia.
Yeah. Hi, Dylan. How's it going?
Santa
Wow.
Clarita, the OC. We have Joytha from India. I'm probably not saying that name correctly. I apologize. Cupertino, San Diego, Dallas. Somebody
Lake
wants to be
Tahoe.
in Lake Tahoe, but they're not right now, apparently. Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
So why don't we move on to our last presentation of the day, bank feeds and banking improvements. This presentation was put together by both Tim Schobel and Shasta Hague, and unfortunately Shasta could not join us today, but Tim is a NetSuite consultant with Business Solution Partners, and he is more than prepared to take you through the presentation today. I just want to thank both Tim and Shasta for their hard work in preparing this. And Tim, I'm going to pass the baton over to you, and you can start our banking session.
Wonderful. Thank you, Craig. I'll start sharing my screen. Also, of course, thank you to all of our attendees today and our previous presenters. You guys have been fantastic. So I'll just start with introducing myself. My name is Tim Schobel. I have a couple years of ERP experience, first starting at Oracle and then with NetSuite, and now I'm with BSP. So I worked on this presentation together with my colleague Shasta Hague. This is going to be focusing on that Bank Feeds Suite app that Gavin had touched on during his presentation, and some of these other banking improvements that have been made with the new release 2020.1. So I'll just start by going over the agenda for this presentation here. We'll just start with a brief introduction about the Bank Feed Suite app, what it does and how it's used before getting into installing and configuring it. We'll have some slides devoted to some screenshots and a walkthrough of that process, and as well as the use of the Suite app, how it works in practice, before concluding with a summary or recap of what we discussed. Okay, so we'll start with that introduction. So this is a tool that is meant to automate the transfer of bank data into NetSuite through a direct connection with your bank. So basically, it retrieves daily bank and credit card information from your financial institutions by linking your accounts in NetSuite. So this can be used to facilitate bank reconciliation. Again, Gavin had mentioned the redesigned match bank data screen and how that has changed with 2020.1. And I'll focus today a little bit on how that works in partnership with the Bank Feed Suite app. So no more need to manually import your bank statements once a month, although you do still have that option. With the 2020.1 release, you have both the automatic and the manual import of your bank statements as an option. The automatic is what I'm going to focus on today. That automatic or direct connection with your bank accounts can work with checking, savings, or credit card accounts. Also, part of the process for connecting to your financial institution requires your actual credentials for your financial institution. So you get that bank level security with this. Also, there are some there's encryptions and your bank statements are not actually kept in NetSuite once they're processed for compliance purposes. So there's a lot of added security there. You have the ability to link multiple financial institutions and accounts. With 2020.1, there are about 8,000 financial institutions supported for the United States and Canada. And I'm sure you'll be glad to know that this doesn't require any additional licensing costs from NetSuite. You should be able to just search for this through that Suite App Marketplace and install the app. Also, just want to address that point that Gavin made. This will be available. I did not know that in 2020.2, so internationally that is. So good to know. So this is just a slide devoted to some of the prerequisites for installing and configuring that Suite app. So certain features need to be enabled in advance. These include custom records, client suite script, and server suite script. For most users of NetSuite, these are already enabled. But if not, and you intend on using the Suite app, you're going to want to go ahead and enable these. There are also certain role permissions that need to be added. So if you're a user other than an administrator who's interacting with this feature and the financial institution records, you're going to need to have that permission added. So for example, if you're like a controller, you're going to need to, the administrator will have to edit the controller's role and add the permissions for the financial institution records. And more on that in a minute. So then you'll just have to install the BankFeed Suite app by following this navigation shown here. It's under Customization, Suite Cloud Development, Suite App Marketplace. It is managed, the Suite app, so it will automatically be updating with any new features or enhancements. So that allows us to get into the actual installation and configuration surrounding using the BankFeed Suite app. Gavin touched on this also during his presentation. This is the navigation here to get to the Suite Apps Marketplace. Again, Customization, Suite Cloud Development, and Suite App Marketplace. And here, look for that icon shown here on the left-hand side of your screen. You'll click into that, and this is the BankFeed Suite app. You just have to click Install up there and on the right-hand side, and you can go ahead and proceed with installing the Suite app. So a few notes about what happens after this is installed. You're going to have a financial institution record and a format profile record automatically provisioned to your NetSuite account. So these are going to be the BankFeed's financial institution record and the link bank accounts profile record associated with that financial institution. You're going to be able to access these records from the drop-down list under the Setup tab in your NetSuite account. This is going to be a newly created list, so these financial institutions did not previously exist prior to the installation of the app. The format profile is going to be populated with content that can't be changed. This would include the plugin, like the BankFeed's connectivity plugin, and the transaction parser, which is the BankFeed's parser. So those components enable NetSuite to connect directly to your financial institutions to retrieve your banking data. And once that's successfully installed, the BankFeed Suite app, you're going to wait about 15 to 30 minutes for that setup to complete in your account. For example, installing the certificates that allows it to communicate securely with your third-party financial institutions and to access your data. So this is where you'll go once that process is complete. After that time has passed, and it's only a few minutes, you're going to go to Setup, Accounting, Financial Institutions, and List. And then from there, you'll see this BankFeed's financial institution that's automatically provisioned to your account. So to set this up, you're going to want to click this financial institution. And once it's there, once viewing it, you'll see that format profile that I mentioned earlier, the link bank accounts format profile. So you're going to want to click link bank accounts here to actually move forward with linking and connecting to your bank. Over here, you're going to get this format profile here. This is for the link bank accounts. This is the page from which you proceed here with accepting terms and conditions for using the BankFeed Suite app and going on to connect to your financial institutions and link your bank accounts. This message up here at the top, no subsidiary restrictions. This is just a message notifying you that you need to map any linked bank accounts associated with this format profile regardless of subsidiary. So there's more information on that as well. So on the connectivity configuration subtab that was shown on that previous slide, you have the ability there to accept the terms and conditions. This is a screenshot of that terms and conditions message. So these 3 steps that are pointed out here really describe the rest of the process. You just need to search for your financial institution, enter the site credentials for logging in. So for example, your Bank of America user ID and password. And then you'll just view your account details and confirm which accounts you want to actually link to the format profile. Okay. So here's the next steps there. Once you've accepted the terms and conditions, you can search for your financial institution here. If you don't see it in one of the options initially available, you can just search for it. As I mentioned earlier, roughly 8,000 are currently supported by the Suite app. So if you're not seeing it in some of these initial choices displayed, you will very likely find it. So from there, you'll just authenticate, entering your bank login credentials, your username and password before clicking submit. And then you'll review your linked accounts. So by default, upon connecting to your financial institution, all of the accounts associated with your bank account are going to be displayed here. So this, assuming a user has a Bank of America account, for example, and they have a savings, checking, and credit card accounts linked to that, they're all going to automatically be linked unless you want to unlink and remove it from the list by clicking this trash icon shown here. I don't know if all of you can see my cursor, but it's visible right there under the name of the account. You'll see all your balances getting loaded in, and this is just going to display the names of your accounts as they appear in your financial institution website. So go through and make sure to unlink any accounts that you don't want to actually link to an existing GL account in NetSuite by clicking that trash icon. This will just prompt a message. Are you sure you want to unlink the account? Confirm that and click unlink before proceeding with linking additional financial institutions or completing that process. So just a quick recap of the process steps there. After installing the Suite app, you're going to find that in BankFeed's financial institution and accept the terms and conditions on the format profile, link bank accounts. Then you're going to search and select your financial institution, connect to it by entering your online bank credentials, and review and remove any linked accounts. So once you've completed that, you're going to map each linked account to a GL account. So before we had been on the connectivity configuration subtab of the format profile. Now we're on the account mapping subtab. This is where you take those linked accounts and match them to a corresponding bank account in NetSuite. So once this is, upon saving though, this is going to import the past 60 days of bank data, and it will auto-match any applicable transactions upon save. Now, a couple notes on this. So there's intelligent transaction matching in play here. I can run matching rules against newly imported transactions. It does not run matching rules against account transactions. So any account transactions that are currently matched cannot be matched again, regardless of the reconciliation state. Also, these rules can be set up under I believe it's transactions, bank, and matching rules. And these can be set up to match on transaction number and amount, or on amount and transaction number without prefixes and leading zeros, or to match on amount when a day is within 90 previous days. So you can configure those matching rules to help further automate this process. So upon save, you'll see this message here about the bank data is importing. This can take anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on the volume of transactions that are in the past 60 days of account activity associated with those accounts. To track the status, you can click this highlighted link here to track the status of the import. That'll take you out here to this page. This is the imported statement list. Here you can see that there's been a completed import. You can keep clicking this refresh button until it's completed. Once completed, the status will change to completed, and you'll see a certain number of transactions imported associated with these NetSuite accounts. Okay. And it should be noted here that imported bank data must be matched to existing transactions in NetSuite. So importing this bank data does not automatically create any transactions in NetSuite, just so you know. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual use of the Suite app. So the connection to your bank prompts, at least regarding the automated import, is relying on a daily refresh that occurs sometime around the hours of between 5 and 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every day, the connection with your bank is refreshed and the data is aggregated and communicated with NetSuite. Couple points about once you've linked those GL accounts, you're going to want to make sure that you enable this option on the GL accounts that you're linking for the reconciliation process. I'll show this on a subsequent slide, but there's this use match bank data and reconcile account statement pages option on the GL account itself. So here's a screenshot of that. This is an example of a bank account that you're going to be linking with that BankFeed Suite app. So you'll see here, this option upon the installation of the app suddenly becomes available on the GL account. This is found by going into the chart of accounts, finding the account and clicking edit. I'll take you to this page and then suddenly you'll see this option here. Make sure that you enable this and save to make sure that the account is set up for the bank feeds. So now I also want to talk a little bit about the account reconciliation summary portlet. I believe this has also been touched upon slightly, but this portlet is now going to include the bank statement balance, the bank statement date, and the number of transactions to be matched. So you can click on these hyperlinks here to, for the number of transactions to be matched to bring you directly to the account matching page. Alternatively, I believe it's under transactions, bank, and the navigation can be found from there. I believe it's match bank data, transactions bank, match bank data. So that'll take you to this page here, and this is very helpful layout to give you a lot of visibility here. The updated bank balances and imported bank data will appear here. This was previously called the confirmed transaction matches page. Now it's called the match bank data page. In addition to the daily updates, there's also a manual update option here, this update imported bank data. It should be noted that this button here is not a live connection to the bank, rather to the aggregated data provider, so there may be some lag time. For example, if you just had a credit card transaction and you're not seeing it on the same day, that's because you probably won't see it until the following day due to that lag time. But clicking this button initiates a request to NetSuite to retrieve the latest data from your financial institution account. If the request is accepted, NetSuite will display a message saying that an import is in process, and you can track the status of that import and so on. So I'll take you back to that previous page that I showed earlier. But here you'll see all the transactions that are to be matched on the left. This is the imported bank data, so the past 60 days of activity associated with this particular account shown up here. You'll see all those transactions here on this page to be matched. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the actual account transactions in NetSuite. So you have this option here to check the left and the right side and click match. The minute you check both sides of this, or if you check, as soon as you check the right-hand side, in addition to the left-hand side, and you're actually trying to perform a match here, this exclude button will gray out. So just want to mention that because we're going to come back to that exclusion option in a moment. But that's the way to actually submit the match. Once you keep clicking match here, once you have the selection here, you'll see it down here in this blue box at the bottom. This is the lines you're matching together, and you can submit that match by clicking match here. That'll eliminate it from this page and move it over to this sub-tab, the matches to submit sub-tab. Also, there are these new buttons here. If you're not seeing a particular, if you're seeing an imported transaction on the left that you're not seeing on the right, as in one that's already existing, one that is not existing in NetSuite, you can create a new journal entry or a new charge or a new deposit to reflect that. These will open pop-up windows that allow you to generate that transaction on the fly. Also, you can use those matching rules that I mentioned earlier to further automate this process. You'll just have to validate those matches on the matches to submit page. So here's an example of clicking an imported line on the left-hand side of that screen. You'll see the exclude option is available. So basically, with the 2020.1, you now have the option to review and even exclude imported bank data from the matching process. So you may want to exclude a transaction, in this example, if it's like old or if it's a duplicate. Excluding it will remove it from your bank data grid, and it can help eliminate clutter. Once you submit exclude on a particular line that's been imported from your bank, that'll remove it from the grid and push it over to this excluded sub-tab here. On that excluded sub-tab, you do have the option to restore a particular line if back to the to be matched sub-tab as needed. So final step on here is just to review those matches to submit. Once you've validated this information here, you can just click submit at the top of the screen. And that'll take you to the reconcile account statement page. Those matched transactions will appear here. You can also reconcile them under this sub-tab and just validate all this information to reduce the difference to 0 and click reconcile to perform your reconciliation. So a little recap of that. So you can view your bank and NetSuite transactions side by side now. You can even exclude any duplicated or old transactions from the list. You can refresh to update your imported data, and you can reconcile to 0 for transactions that match up on both sides of those imported from your bank and those existing in NetSuite. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit just to recap. So previously, so some benefits about the Bank Feed Suite app. It's helpful for eliminating that manual import of banking data through the automated connection, direct connection with your financial institutions. In the past, users had to, were allowed to import their bank statements, various file formats. They had to fetch them from a remote location. Now this is further expedited by having that direct connection with your bank. Also, your bank balances can be updated daily to be more helpful in informing your decisions based on your current cash position. So for planning and forecasting for the future, this can be helpful. Also, the improved match bank data functionality has streamlined the process and helped to reduce clutter. So that's been simplified and redesigned to further expedite this process. I also have a couple notes. So regarding the differences between 2020.1 and 2019, there previously financial institution account data on the confirmed transaction matches page was static, and you had to manually import that new data. But now, if the administrator configures a format profile for direct connectivity to a financial institution, NetSuite can automatically update that data every day. So that's kind of one of the key differences there, kind of more fleshed out. And yeah. But with that, I will open it up to any questions, and that's the conclusion of my presentation.
All right, Tim, thanks so much. Gonna just get back control here, share the screen. And I did want to say that your cohort Shasta was able to show up. So Shasta, hey, how's it going?
It's going well, Craig. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for helping with this presentation. I think Tim did a great job getting it out to the user group today. What do you think?
I think Tim did wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim.
Awesome. So Tim
problem.
and Shasta are both available to answer some questions. We're going to stick around here and go into our Q&A session. And I'm also going to launch our closing poll. Please stick around. We've got just a couple more things to go over, and then we're going to open up the forum into Q&A. All right. Now it's time for our little commercial. I know you've seen a lot of BSP, and you know, again, we hope that more participation from more of our sponsors and more of our users in the future, so we can minimize our voice. But it's now our chance to get to say thank you and hello and go into our little marketing spiel here. So I just wanted to let you know that Business Solution Partners has a 30-year history of providing high-level financial and operational consulting and technology-based solutions to mid-market and enterprise companies in all 50 states. We're an Oracle NetSuite 5-star solution provider partner for 2020. There's our little award. We're also an Adaptive Insights Gold Partner, a HubSpot Gold Partner, and in 2019, we took home AvidXchange's Partner of the Year Award. In addition to these accolades, we hold certifications with many other SaaS solutions like Tipalti, like FloQast, like Avalara, to help companies achieve process transformation in finance, sales, operations, marketing, and so much more. We represent a wide variety of software and process solutions supported by training to ensure that your company succeeds in the modern business environment. We are a global software consultancy with a local presence in your backyard. From our humble beginnings with a single office in New York, we've expanded our footprint across the U.S. to include offices in Costa Mesa, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Santa Barbara. That's all California. We also are in Stamford, Connecticut, Deerfield Beach, Florida, Chicago, Minneapolis, Bozeman, Montana, New Jersey, Henderson, Nevada, Reston, Virginia. And in addition to our New York City office, we also have an office on Long Island. We're moving business forward with the tech stack designed for growth. Our consultants and professional service providers support the NetSuite community with implementations, integrations, custom development, training, and support. We work with Oracle NetSuite in conjunction with Adaptive Insights and HubSpot to help companies transform their approach to marketing, ensuring a holistic, strategic approach to your business, supported by a tech stack designed to scale. As evidenced by our participation and organization of these user groups, we are also, I apologize for the title on that slide. That was from one of our old webinars and I did not change it. But we are all about sharing educational opportunities and informative content with our growing audience. So I personally encourage you to check out our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn page. Be sure to like and subscribe to receive regular updates, including access to white papers, regularly attended webinars, blog posts, and much more. We've made it really easy by providing you with some custom links. Just type in our web address, bspny.com/YouTube or /LinkedIn to be taken to our social pages. And that's it for our commercial. We have reached the pinnacle of our user group here today. Again, I will thank all of our presenters. And for everybody that stuck around with us, we're going to try to open up the forum here and acknowledge some people, get our panelists and presenters and moderators in on the conversation. So let's light up that Q&A board with any questions you have, either specific to today's topics or specific to challenges you are facing deploying NetSuite within your organization. We've got a lot of brain power on this call today, and if we can help you out in any way, let's do that. First of all, I'm going to go in and I have to do a little bit of administration here. I'm going to close our ending poll. Oh, there's still a couple people taking it. I'm going to keep it open for a minute. Okay, I am going to unmute our panelists. Panelists, be aware, you can unmute yourselves now and say hello to everybody who is still with us. we still have 150 attendees on the call right now. So hello to Wing and Tom Bemiller and Shasta, Karen Reyes, John Mark Esteron, Hussain Zaidi, Debbie Feith, David Smuha, JM, John Mark Esteron. All of these people are here today supporting you and your questions, and have answered a whole bunch of your questions in the Q&A panel. And I'm just going to open it up. Does anybody see a question in the Q&A right now that they want to answer live?
Q&A, I just want to remind everyone, when they leave the webinar today, they will be taken to a survey. If everyone could take a few minutes and fill those out, we would greatly appreciate it, because we use these responses to make the webinars better for next time and our live events. So in advance, thank you everyone for your participation.
All right, who am I going to get to put on the spot here? Hussain, any questions from the Q&A that we can tackle?
Yeah, I was looking at a couple of them. So there are a few of them from the last, or for the last presentation about bank feeds. So I think I'll let Tim answer those, or Shasta. But there's one here about credit card transaction import and what's the best practice. So for credit card transaction import, you have to keep in mind NetSuite is what we call PCI and PADSS compliant. So they have to, once you import the data in, you cannot download from NetSuite, but you can certainly import your credit card into the system, and we have done it for multiple clients. What are the best practices? Well, there are best practices in regards to handling of the data that certainly come from the PCI side. As an end client, we encourage you to do the data import yourself. The less number of hands the data touches, the credit card data and the sensitive data, the more secure it is. So a lot of time we would just provide you instructions, and we will do some test runs with credit card, test credit card numbers. And once the CSV import is working properly, we will let you guys do the import. If you want us to do the import, we certainly have our best practices in regards to credit card safety that we employ. So I'm hoping that is sufficient. In terms of field mapping, it's pretty standard. We use the CSV file import to import the data in. There is one caveat. There are sometimes you are not using the full credit card numbers, you're using the tokens. And if you're using tokenization with the payment gateway, then there's a separate process for that. It does not have to be the same, it does not have to go to the same security as full credit card numbers.
Excellent. Okay. Shasta, I think I'm gonna call you out, introduce you again, and see if there's anything on the banking feeds questions that you can provide a little bit more clarity on.
I was looking through the different questions. One of them was, well, will you be able to add journal entries like we do to void and reissue checks? Yes. You'll have a quick link at the very bottom that says add credits or add, I forget without looking at the actual screen, but yes, you will have that functionality. Normally we recommend to void the check itself and not do a journal entry not associated with it though.
Excellent. I see Catherine, how can I find this banking suite app to install? Along with all of the suite apps available in the marketplace, I believe the website is www.suiteapp.com. And I do get confused whether it's suite app or suite apps. So somebody please confirm that with me.
Suite app.
Well, I also believe that with the new release, there's the Suite Apps tab in your NetSuite account. You just need to go to locate the Suite App marketplace in there.
Excellent.
As well.
Yeah, the difference is that the suiteapp.com does not have NetSuite suite apps in it. the Suite app tab in your NetSuite account will have both partner and NetSuite apps in it.
Oh, excellent. So if it's native, you're not actually going to find it in the marketplace.
Correct.
Great advice.
Unless that's going to change, but that's the way I understand this currently works.
Great. Thanks, Gavin.
It's actually not just a marketplace, or it's actually a new bundler kind of. So so it's not just like a marketing piece. There's a whole new infrastructure behind it that makes it possible to install the apps automatically. So,
well, that's certainly awesome. Gavin, there was a question in here about the roadmap. Does the roadmap include a bulk charge generation at the project level versus the nightly charge run?
yeah, I saw that. Currently, the roadmap does, but it's nowhere near in the horizon as far as I can tell.
So it's on the roadmap, but there's not a point on that map where we can point to.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I know what we're working on for the next 3 releases, 3 or 4, and I don't see anything on there. But that doesn't mean that can't change. Things. The thing I can tell you most is, vote on enhancement requests, because Evan and Gary, who run the product side still, are always looking for the enhancements that get the most votes from customers, and there's a lot of pressure on the product teams to deliver something every release that's on that list. So,
and if you're new to NetSuite, where can you upvote on the roadmap ideas?
I think it's in. I don't have access to it because I work for NetSuite. So I think it's on the. I think it's on yours on the support page.
All right, we have a dwindling attendance. There's still a lot of people here, though, which means to me there's some questions. I'm going to try something bold here. There's a little button on your Zoom interface that allows you to raise your hand. And if you have a question, as the administrator, I can open up your microphone and allow you to ask that question in person. And I would like to experiment with that, being that this is a user group and it's all about you guys who are here today as the users. So if you want to raise your hand, I can unmute you and you can ask a question to our team. Looks like we've got our first hand raised. Namish, I'm gonna unmute you right now. Hey, Namish.
Hi, thank you for unmuting me.
Yes,
really
no
appreciate, and all great session, all great topics, really appreciate. One question for this bank feed, can we map, pre-map certain accounts to create the journal entries or other transactions while doing reconciliation? So that, it would automatically create a journal entry based on certain criteria?
That's a good question. Let's see if any of our panelists can jump on that. Not all at once, but just remember to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think I was muted. That question, could you repeat that a little bit? You said that, is there a way to automate the generation of the transaction?
Yeah, so, we can have some pre-mapping, say, for example, bank fees, right? All the accounts come with special code for bank fees. So can we have pre-map that if this is the code, create journal entry, definitely credit will go to the bank account, but debit this particular GL account?
So I think that is tying into the rules that can be set up, and there's more information about those matching rules that can be configured. But yes, you could set those up to automate that match process. So are you asking about something to automate the actual creation of a transaction in NetSuite?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, say for example, bank fees automatically create the journal entry based on certain pre-mapped GL accounts.
Yeah. I believe there are intelligent matching rules that can be set up to automate the matching with a particular GL account based on transaction information. And there's a lot more information about that online. I will do a little bit more research into that. Shasta, do you have anything to add?
No, you're on the right track. I remember reading something about it, but I would have to go back and read that again before I could really give you an answer.
Actually, let me jump in. Nimish is saying here, if the request that you are bringing up, that would require customization for now. The matching rules are there to match against existing entries. They won't let you automatically create those journal entries for bank fee or interest charges or other things that usually you won't have on your GL side, and you want to automatically feed those in from the bank statement.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks everybody for your input there. Just so everybody knows, the hand raising worked, right? So if you want to ask us a question, hit that hand raising button. I'll unmute you and you can ask a question to our panel. Looks like our next question is coming from Josh. Josh, are you there?
I am here, thank you. It was mentioned earlier that we have a UX team doing good things to all the new features coming out. Is there plans to revisit old things like perhaps transaction field or forms?
Anybody have any insights into that? It looks like Gavin actually had to drop off and go to a next meeting. He's probably the most appropriate person to answer that question since he's our NetSuite insider. But Josh, we're going to write that down. We're going to forward that message off to Gavin, and we're going to try to get an answer for you.
Actually, Josh, can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, it was mentioned there's a UX team going over every new feature, and I was wondering if they're going to revisit old features, like even the transaction forms.
Yeah, so do you have any problems with the current setup on the transaction forms, the way you customize them, the way they get rendered? Is there a problem?
In my opinion, they're a bit dated.
Oh, they are. Actually, a year and a half ago, NetSuite had a sneak peek of the new dashboard and a new UI that they're working on. And I think eventually everything would get reworked into that framework. So the old forms and putting them on a new, having them a new user, giving them new user experience probably is a lower priority for them. I think they're, from my understanding, they're working on the dashboards and the overall layout, and then probably they're going to move into the individual forms.
Yeah, I see that happening with some other software platforms. So as the marketing guy here at BSP, I do a lot of the HubSpot work, and HubSpot will roll out a brand new look and feel for a certain area of the platform, and then over time it kind of permeates the rest. And I just think that's sort of a SaaS general practice that we concentrate on some of the newer stuff and then we roll backwards into updating the older functionality, right?
All right.
All right, Josh, thanks for that question. Keep on raising your hands, folks. Any other questions you've got? I know we're a few minutes over time on our 3:30, but we're happy to stick around and answer any more questions that you have. So we'll put a couple more minutes on the clock, and if you want to raise your hand or submit a question to Q&A, please feel free to do so. Looks like we've got a question from Manny. Manny, are you with us? Hello, Manny. Manny, I see you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything. Very faint.
Oh, okay. I have a question as well. I wanted to know if there's more guidance available for making.
All right. Looks like you're breaking up, Manny. We can keep trying, but if you'd like to type out your question either in the chat or the Q&A, that would be helpful for us.
The transaction download from the.
Craig, I can see in the chat she asked, is more guidance available to create rules so that we can match maximum transactions?
Ah, excellent. So
yeah, a couple notes on that. So I'm assuming that's referring to the matching rules that I just mentioned. So you can set up your matching rules under transactions, bank, matching rules, that's the navigation they would follow as the administrator. You can make rules that run on the transaction number. They would match the transaction ID from the imported transaction with the NetSuite number. So the NetSuite check number, for example, in the custom matching rule would correspond to the check number on bill payments, checks, or customer payment records. Deposit number would correspond to, for deposits, or transfer number for transfers, entry number for journal entries, the reference number for credit card charges and credit card refunds. You also have rules that you can set up. I mentioned these 3 types a little earlier during my presentation, but there are certain types of rules that can be run, for example, and they're prioritized in the following order. You can match transaction number and amount. You can match on amount and transaction number without prefixes and leading zeros, and then you can match on amount when the date is within the previous 90 days. And yeah, for any additional information on that, I feel like we could probably devote even entirely a new session to that because it's a lot of information involved in that. But I don't know, Shasta, do you have anything else to add on that topic?
I'll just say it sounds like a great opportunity for either a webinar or a short format video for us to do in the future, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're getting down to the end of it. Thank you, Manny. Glad we were able to answer your question there. Last licks. Who's got a question? Who wants to raise their hand and participate? Thank you to the anonymous attendee who said, thanks for putting this together. We really appreciate all the users coming together today and being a part of this special, interesting forum. And we really hope to see you all in person again in the near future. We miss you. We miss you. And, this NetSuite community is really tight knit. And every quarter that we get to put on these events in California and New York, it's like seeing family and friends all over again. So we're really looking forward to getting back to some semblance of normalcy. And in the meantime, we want everybody to stay safe and stay sane. And do your best. There's challenges ahead of us, but we are all here together. And if anybody needs help during these times, feel free to reach out to us, to BSP, to your sponsors, to your user group members. Get in touch with us on the LinkedIn forums. Share with each other and support each other in the questions that we have about how best to deploy our NetSuite and to leverage it for success in our business. Since I don't see any more hands up and it looks like the Q&A has slowed down, I'm going to take this moment to thank you for all of your participation today. We hope you found value and we look forward to seeing you again. From all of us at the New York, SoCal, and NorCal NetSuite user groups, from all of your sponsors, and for everybody participating today, thank you, and we will see you next time, whether that is virtual or in person. We're going to let you know as soon as possible. All right? Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.